Hello and welcome everybody to today's TrueFire Live broadcast with one of my favorite players on the planet, Henry Johnson. Henry's first course with TrueFire, one of our top-ranked, top-selling courses of all time. It was called, and is still called, Jazz Expressions. And Henry shared a lot of his approaches, his concepts, a lot of the techniques that he uses. He's here last couple of days filming 2 new projects, which we'll tell you about in a minute. Let me share a little information about Henry. Born in Chicago, started playing at age 12. Came up, playing in R&B groups, and his parents, were jazzers. He heard Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Joe Williams, playing constantly in the house. But he was turned on to jazz guitar by Wes Montgomery, and very much influenced by that kind of soul jazz music in the late 60s and 70s. In fact, he went on the road with the famous organist Jack McDuff in one of those organ trios, which of course cats like, Benson and Burrell also did. Played a lot with Ramsey Lewis, recorded his own records, worked with, everybody and his brother, the real deal here. And we're so excited to have him be a part of TrueFire's family. Henry, I hope you're excited to be part of the family as well.
How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing good, man. Are we working you hard here past couple of days?
Not doing anything that I don't want to do.
That's a great answer. Very tactful answer. So let's tell folks a little bit about the projects we're shooting here. The first one is Trading Solos with Henry Johnson. You brought in 5 tracks. What were the styles of those tracks you brought in?
I think they were kind of variety of styles. One of them was like a bossa nova.
Yeah.
Another one was a Latin kind of thing, and then there was some swing stuff.
Yeah.
And then there were some funk things.
Yeah.
So
kind of the
variety
styles that might be commonly, called out in a jazz jam session.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely common for sure. Yeah.
And we roll the track, and basically you comp throughout the thing, but you'll take a couple of choruses, and then the student takes a couple of choruses, right?
Yeah, sort of like an interaction. I think that the biggest thing that I got was interaction with my peers,
Mm-hmm.
and interactions with the masters that I was fortunate enough to be around to study. And so I think that, this is something that we can actually do as sort of like a simulator, interaction between me and the person who's on the other end of it.
Right. And what are the types of things like, when you're actually, on the bandstand and you're trading solos with, whether it's another guitarist or saxophone player, what are you listening for? And, when it's your turn to solo, what are the types of things you're thinking about doing?
Well, a lot has to do with the song that we're playing, but if we're trading, I'm thinking about what he just played, and is it material in there, melodic material in there that I can jump off on from where he left and create a solo starting point based on what he just played. So during his solo, I'm listening to him all of the time
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that, oh wow, okay, that one's cool. Maybe I can start my solo with that one. So he's kind of like dropping the ball
Got it.
in front of me and
Uh-huh.
says, okay, here it is. Now you pick something up from it.
Uh-huh.
So that's what kind of trading is like.
Cool. So it's not just, okay, now it's my time to solo. I'll do whatever I want to do. It's kind of keeping the conversation going, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're trading, you're definitely having a conversation. Because if you weren't, then you would just be doing your own thing anyway.
Right.
And then why even have another person involved if you're the only one that's soloing?
Nice. And that is why, in that particular course, Trading Solos, not only is that interaction kind of simulated, where you take two, then you leave space for them to take two. When they take their solo, they're seeing you comp, but you're also sharing some of the ideas. You show them some of the comping moves. You show them, some of the licks or approaches to soloing to kind of give them, well, teach them some new cool stuff, but to also give them a bit of a heads up for what you might be playing so they can pick up on that and keep that conversation going.
Yeah, I'm
right?
trying to leave them something where I can drop the ball for them to pick up some of this and start your solo with maybe some of that in it. And then if I'm comping behind them, I can show them like how I fit in behind them.
Nice. Very nice. Call out one of those tracks. Let's play over one of those tracks so folks can get a feel for the kind of grooves you're working with.
Hey Tommy, when you what do you have up there that we can use?
Why don't we do Gold Coast?
Okay.
Think you can just kind of improv over that on the fly like that without
I'm gonna
rehearsal?
I'm have to try to remember what it is.
You'll know in a sec.
I know I'll have to like react to see what it is. Something like that.
Nice, very nice. So it's really, you've mixed up 5 really common kind of grooves that you're going to encounter, and you trade solos back and forth.
Yeah, just back and forth. That particular thing was something that is in 3 because it's that's a common thing that we do in jazz.
Cool.
There's always going to be some sort of waltz or something like
Very
that.
cool. Hey, I just want to tell you where some of the folks are from that are tuned in right now. We have, and always blows me away, like, music in general is such a global thing, Then you kind of mix in the power of the internet and streaming. We've got folks from Brazil, Florida, Italy, Scotland, Ukraine, San Francisco, New Zealand. Doesn't that
Wow.
blow your mind? Like
It does.
And more and more tuning in all the time here. So I'm going to keep you posted on who you're talking to here, okay?
Oh, okay.
Before we play a little bit more, let's talk about how many years did it take? When did you and I start talking about doing something together?
Oh man, it must have been about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been
And
knowing each other quite a while.
you're pretty busy, Kat, for sure, right?
Yeah, I was.
And we
Yeah.
went back and forth. We'd exchange emails, every couple, 3 months, we'd say hey to each other. And finally, when you did Jazz Expressions, when last October or November,
Last
something like
October,
that.
yeah.
And it was, our first experience with you and your first experience with us.
Yeah.
It must have been okay because we got you to come back again, right?
Yeah. I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
But I was blown away. I really, of course, we talk the course down, we prepare blueprints, we get a feeling for at least a general outline and theme of the course, but you really blew us all away. And apparently our student body with the concepts that you presented and what we and our students and myself personally, particularly Doug, was, you had such an accessible way of kind of explaining what you do and how, you kind of the various musical approaches. You didn't get deep into theory. You didn't get deep into, the Phrygian mode or the Dorian mode. You talked in very plain language, and I think that we all found that very liberating. Many of us that have studied jazz find, it can get pretty complex when people start talking, theory and harmonic approaches, and that can be pretty intimidating.
Yeah, I think it's intimidating for people who just starting off and they want to actually get to know more about it. But it, if they have a background in R&B or rock or whatever, it doesn't mean that anything's off limits to them. I just look at music as just being all encompassing. You can come from any background and add to the music you like. It just becomes another music that you like. It might be because when I came up, all of the music were played on one radio station. So we didn't have music that was sectioned off. If you listen to this radio station, they were playing the Beatles, they were playing Wes Montgomery, they played Ramsey Lewis, they played everybody together. That way, nobody told you what music you could like
Interesting.
or listen to. You just heard something, and it's just like, wow, I like that song. Who's that?
Yeah.
That's where you found out about music. So it's like nobody told you what to like. Now people kind of censor what music you have accessible to,
Yeah.
So it's like that's not a really good thing. People need to always have access to stuff to make up their own minds.
Yep.
And so when I was coming up, I liked all kind of guitar players. I just like guitar players, period. So I listen to gospel guys, I listen to R&B guys, I listen to jazz guys. To me, it's all music, and at the bottom line of it is just expression. So when I look at theory, I don't look at jazz theory. I look at it as just harmony. Theory means that I'm going to theorize about this, and maybe this will work, or maybe it don't. Harmony is just what it is. It's just something that works already. It's accessible to me right now, no matter what kind of music I play. So that's what I'm looking at. Some of the most simplest things. If you can take a simple thing, you can always build on it. But if you start with a skyscraper, you'll never be able to even get inside of it.
Yeah. You talk a lot about, well, first of all, I wish they had a radio station like that today.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of this eclectic mix of styles, because there's a lot of people today. We have a very large jazz catalog, and, we feel privileged to be able to have so many great jazz players come in. We wish more people, got into jazz, because it's a beautiful style of music. It's got a lot of styles within that style. And if they had a radio station like that today, that might be the case.
Yeah, if nobody told you what it was that was playing,
Yeah.
If you didn't know it was jazz, you just say, oh, well, that's
Yeah.
a great tune, I like it.
Yeah, there's probably some good internet radio stations that kind of mix it up like that. I know if you go on Spotify or Apple Music, you can get, other people's playlists But you know, of all the standard stations, I haven't run across anything that's got that wide a mix in it. So
Yeah, and think about this. All of the radio stations were like that then, So, and we only had like 4 television stations,
Yeah.
but all of the television shows, they had their own bands and orchestras. So the music was indoctrinated into society.
Yeah.
And if you look at my iPod, you're gonna find like everything on there. You'll see some Led Zeppelin on it. You're gonna see some Jimi Hendrix. It's just like music, man.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm choosing jazz because I want to express myself through
Yeah.
that. But that doesn't mean that I haven't done some recording sessions where people needed me to play some, feedback on my guitar because I needed to do this commercial that sounded like Michael Jackson's "Beat It" or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, yeah,
To me,
yeah.
it's just all music.
Yeah.
There's 6 strings on the guitar. So if that person did it on 6 strings, then there got to be a way for me to do it too.
I love that. So we were talking about how you take something simple. You don't start up at the tower. You take something simple and you build on that, right?
Yeah.
Call another track if you would. Start
What do you
with
have up,
something
Tommy?
super simple that any one of us could play and build it slowly for us, would you?
What about that Barron's Blues? Can you pull that up, Tommy?
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
It's just a blues in C, but it's just simple. Everybody knows the blues.
Yeah.
In some form of it. All guitar players know this.
Pentatonic scale, right?
What makes it sound different is I'm adding a rhythm to it. Now I'm actually using it like it's got a melody to it. That's just only the notes in the pentatonic. Now, if I add more notes, half steps. Just some double stops right there. Now you might hear B.B. King do this, but the way I do it when we're swinging it, it's gonna make it sound different. And what you're probably used to this. That would be like what B.B. King would do. But just because I'm actually making it sound more like me and what's in my head, I'm using the same material that all that. So I'm
Nice.
just actually just using the information that's right there already.
Yeah, that was a great demonstration, man. In fact, we had a couple of questions. You know, we have a live chat running, and one of the questions was, you know, what is the first area to work on if I want to transition from blues and rock into jazz? And I would say you just demonstrated that pretty well, didn't you?
Yeah.
You're basically saying, look, take that scale you're familiar with. You use that pentatonic all the time. Change the rhythm and the feel a little bit.
Yeah.
Add a couple of notes and put yourself into it, right?
Exactly. Because if it's like rock is just an integral part of society's music. So it's like, why would you cut yourself off from it?
Right.
It can coexist with every other music that you like.
Yeah. You know what else is funny? And, you don't see this chat, but Paramedi, I can't really read the username, but ask for some BB King, please. You just gave him the BB King. There you go. BB King jazzed up a bit, right?
Yeah.
So, melody, you talk in your courses. You always talk about, building on the melody.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Why is that important? And what advice can you give us for doing the same?
Well, when you have a melody, it automatically becomes musical. And it also becomes like, why is it that advertising agencies, especially in the 60s, always created these melodies that they put with commercials that people could not get out of their heads? They would be singing it because they heard it on the radio, heard it on television all the time, and the melodies would be stuck in their head. If there hadn't have been any melodies, they wouldn't have remembered anything. So melodies actually are the things that make songs. And so that's why I concentrate on the melody all the time. So if you know a lot of songs, you know a lot of melodies already. So when you're learning songs, it doesn't matter where they came from. How many times a Beatles song has been done by jazz musicians, pop musicians, R&B musicians? It's just a great melody. So why should you cut yourself off from it? If you got a good melody, then sky's the limit.
Yeah. So do you take, say you're going to take a solo or improvise off a tune, do you start sort of outlining the melody? Would you start there? How do you incorporate the melody into, say, the solo?
Well, if we took a song that has like a okay, that's a melody already. But if it was being used, like depending on the kind of groove that you're doing, yeah, so the melody is built into it, like right there, because I'm actually playing the melody over that.
Nice.
And I could change the backdrop. Remember, when a song starts out and it's on paper, you can change the backdrop in it and it becomes any kind of groove. Now, this could have been like, it can be anything. So a good melody will stand on its own
Nice.
without any chords or anything like that. And you remember it.
And the audience, I guess, would relate better to what you're playing.
They
right?
do. Because somewhere in their lifetime, even if their parents played it for them, or subconsciously, they are aware of it. We kind of like underestimate our ears, and we underestimate our audience's ears. You say, oh, this audience can't possibly know anything about that. You should never underestimate anybody. You don't know what they've ever heard in their life. So you have to assume that they know as much as you do.
Very cool. Very cool. Pick another tune. Play something.
What else you have up there, Tommy?
Do a bossa or samba?
Sure.
Which one?
Let me see. What do you have a bossa up there? That's like a bossa nova type of thing. So you can do a lot of different kind of stuff with that. You can change the feel of it. You can play around with it. You play rhythmically on it, but I'm playing melodic on it right now. There's other things that I can do to it as well, but it has tons of information, and the feel is nice and relaxed. So you can actually relax into it, play melodic on it, play pretty on it, but you can also play bluesy on it. You can play funky on it. You can do all those things that uniquely become part of your personality.
Nice. The couple of quick questions. You mind answering them? We have Tom Jankowski asks. He says he's currently studying comping, and would you talk a little bit about and demo your approach for comping when you're performing with multiple rhythm instruments in the band?
Okay, Tommy, play the same thing again, and I'll talk about like now we have a piano player that's on the track. You have to learn how to play with the piano player because there's two instruments. You're a harmony instrument, and so is the piano. So now you have to learn how to comp without actually being in the way of each other. So the way that immediately you can do it is pianists have 10 fingers, you have 4. They're going to most likely have an upper range of their chords where they're going to be playing in the upper range. That means that you can play right underneath them. So in other words, it's like being here. They're here, you're right there with them. And then the bass and the drums are underneath, so you're always together. When they play high, you play low. When they play low, you play high. So there's always a contrast between the two of you. And then you're playing with the rhythm section. So when you're comping, you're also playing with the drummer, and you're aware of the bass player. So if you're playing with a bass player, you don't want to actually choose the notes that he's playing. So that means that you take one note out of your chord, and now you become part of the rhythm section without actually combating the rhythm section.
Nice. Show us how to do that.
Okay, so now I'm just going to play the 2 top notes without the 2 bottom notes without the bass. And notice my rhythm is going along with the drummer. So you can do a lot with 2 notes. And you can move those notes around. Now we'll hear them. So hopefully that explains it a little bit.
Tom, I hope that was a good answer to your question because I sure learned a lot from it myself. Couple of other quick questions. Gauge strings that you're using.
The strings I have on here are Tomastic 13s. They're flat wounds because I don't like the string noise that you get from round wounds. And also, too, the round wounds grind into the frets, so you'll end up having a fret job quicker than you would actually with just using flat wounds.
Cool. By the way, Gil Paris says hi. I knew he'd be, chimed in here. Hey, Gil. Always good to hear from you, man. Gil has a couple of TrueFire courses as well, and you should check those out for sure. Let's see. Another question. This is a good one. And you cover this both in the first course, Jazz Expressions, and you touch on it in these courses as well. Smoking up. Talk about the way you hold the pick and attack the strings. And while you're at it, talk about how you sometimes use your fingers too. Talk about the right hand.
Well, I'm just looking at everything as a color and something that I can use to have in my whole bag of my palette. When I have the thumb gives me a certain mellowness that I can use, and especially when you hit chords and things like that. And the pick gives you a percussiveness and also a certain articulation that sort of like in your face. Mm-hmm. But you can, if you got enough thumb technique, you can actually get that too, the articulation with your thumb as well. You can do all of the same things with your thumb. So my picking technique is following my thumb technique. And that way I can kind of like access it cleanly. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for so long, they're kind of like one and the same almost, Mm-hmm. There is a legato left-hand technique that works with your right hand. Mm-hmm. So in other words, instead of doing this, I can just do one stroke. Mm. So now I'm saving a lot of energy and time. So a lot of the things, it appears that I'm doing stuff with my right hand, but I'm actually doing it with my left.
Cool, great answer. Let's see. Are you thinking about, Rusty wants to know, are you thinking about the chord changes when you're improvising? And he says, in a scale. What are you thinking? Are you thinking scales? Are you thinking the chord changes? Are you thinking chord tones? What's going through your head? Or is your ear doing all the work?
Let's think about that for a second. My ear, like everyone's ear, is the best thing that you have to play music. Music is an oral art, so you got to use them. So when you start depending on your ear is kind of telling you what to play. In my head, when I'm playing a song, I know what the chord changes are. I already know the song. So that's something that I don't have to think about anymore. Now, that leaves me the freedom to think about the colors that I want to use. You know, if you got a minor chord that's sitting there for 2 bars, that leaves a whole lot of possibilities of like all of the different colors that you can use in it. Or how do you want to paint that minor? Do you want it to be a straight minor? Do you want it to have all of those? Now, all of those things are going on simultaneously in your head. But remember, inside of your head, there is no time. Time only exists outside where everybody else is. But in your head, things that sound like 1, 2, 3, 4 in your head is going like 1, 2, 3. You have all of the time in the world to pick and choose what you want to play because your ear is doing that for you. And then you just put it out like, oh, my ear says do this. Okay, this is what I'm going to play. So I always follow my ear. Even, and I'm not thinking about scales or anything like that. Scales don't help me play music. You know, scales is something that horn players have to learn that because technically they have to know that to move around their instrument. But I don't really need that. A scale's not going to help me be able to play a song. The only thing that's going to help me play the song is learning the song, which means I got to learn the melody to the song, and I got to learn the chords to the song. The melody tells me where I can start my improvisation at. So no, I'm not thinking about any scales or anything like that. I'm thinking about pure melody and harmony. So if the song starts on... When that's going on, I'm not thinking about a scale. I'm thinking about a melody that will go over the top of that. I don't even have to have the chords there, so you can actually, the melody is kind of telling you what chords are coming. That's why the ear can't be underestimated. It hears things and it fills in the blanks of what you think you're just going to play a gig by yourself and you only play the melody. People's ear will fill in the rest of the melody. You know, it's because they've heard it so many times before. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm playing and I'm improvising. I'm thinking about that.
That's great. Great answer, man. Why the tape over the F hole? Somebody wants to know. Eddie. Eddie, here's your answer.
First of all, it's not tape, so it doesn't have any adhesive on it, which will mess up the finish of your guitar. What it is, it's a clear plastic, and I use it over the F holes because it cuts the feedback completely off. There's no feedback. I can sit next to an amp, and I can crank it up, and it still will not feedback. And what ends up happening is when you have nothing there, the body of the hollow body guitar resonates and creates a feedback loop. So it's coming out of that hole. One particular note at a particular register is coming out of that hole, going back into here, and it creates that loop that keeps, you know, and you notice certain notes do it. But when you put that plastic over there, it cuts the loop.
And do you have it on the bottom one too?
I don't have it on the bottom one right now, but I usually have both of them covered.
Oh, you
up.
do?
Yeah.
Right. So is that, you know, you're usually playing electric, right? Are the F holes ever useful even when you're playing electric?
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to cover them all the way up. See, right now they're still resonating, but there's been a lot of different kind of things that was made for F holes. People would cover them up with tape, plastic. There even was plugs and things like that. But what happens is it cuts the resonance down on your guitar. and it affects the sound. It kind of deadens it if you put something inside
So
of there.
you're really kind of almost controlling the resonance of the instrument.
Yeah, I
with-
want the instrument to resonate. I want the body to resonate,
Right.
but I don't want the feedback. And just that little thin strip of plastic keeps the feedback down.
While we're on it, that's your signature guitar, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the model that was created by Heritage.
Nice. How long have you been playing that one?
This one's probably about 14 years old.
It's old. Why don't you just leave it behind and get them to send you a new one? We'll find a place for it somewhere. It's a sweet guitar, very sweet. Call out a tune. Play a little more for us, and do us a favor on this one. Comp for a chorus and then solo.
Okay, pull up the same song and I'll come for you on this one here. Now I'm using 3 notes this time. Okay.
Killer, really killer. So this is great. The chat is very active, and guys are asking great questions. Many of the questions actually I had written down to ask you myself. Arthur Graham says one of the favorite things on the first course was, as Henry moved arpeggios up the neck, he referred to them as areas of interest. And I remember that fascinated me, and it's an example of one of the ways you have of kind of communicating information in a way that we can grasp right away. He says it stuck with me as a good way to think about it, which, I had the same experience. Share with everybody this concept of areas of interest, and then demonstrate it. If you
Well, what I learned from teaching is everybody has their own way of processing information. So you can show this. It's not a one size fit all. So, and I think that's one of the problems that it frustrates a lot of people, because if somebody, they go to somebody and he tries to teach them the same thing that he teaches everybody else, and they don't get it, then it makes them feel like there's something wrong with them. If you're going to actually be teaching somebody, you need to be reactive to the way that they process information. And to me, I want to process information like as quickly as possible. That means it's got to be simplified. you know. So the guitar is like a visual instrument. That's one of the things that we can use in our advantage. Almost the other instruments got 10 fingers to play all those notes with. You know, we only have 4, but
Right.
we're expected to do the same thing that they do.
Right.
But one of our advantages is because it's a visual instrument. So even if we're just looking at that tune, all of the information that's inside of that area is right here. Everything is right there. Even if I wanted a different color of it. So if I want to create this sound, now moving to the next chord, that's just a straight dominant 7th chord. But because it's a dominant 7th chord, I can see all the extra extensions here. Now there's another color. Even if I don't want to stay on that color, I know it's a part of that shape. Or now I'm actually staying on that color. But I don't have to. All those things are choices to me. And when I'm actually playing, I want all the options I can possibly have. That way, when the rhythm kicks in and the melody kicks in, it gives me almost unlimited amount of material to repurpose and recalculate and recalibrate over and over and over again.
And then you talked about, I think it was areas of activity as well, different sections of the neck.
Yes, different sections of the neck. So if I was gonna this right here, that's an area activity right there, because there's like, okay, that's E flat, right? But where's the other areas of activity for the E flat? It's like up here too. Here, as we did before. Next one's up here. Next one up's up here. You can keep going. You're going to run out until you run out of, you're not going to run out until you run out of frets.
Right.
So your activity is going to be linked together. So what you're doing, you want to link those areas together. If I start my solo up here, maybe I want to, because the piano player was playing down here, I don't want to start down there. I want to have a contrast to what he's playing. So if he's playing down, I want to start up here. I just moved over into this area right here. Now when I'm going to go over this area, now I move back over into this area. So I'm constantly moving, and these things are happening whether you know it or not. Every time you put your hand down on a note, there is a shape of that chord, of that song, that you are right underneath all of the time. So you're constantly moving your shapes all the time. You just have to start realizing that they're there and they're for your use.
Marino asks you to talk about 2-5-1. So, very typical progression in jazz, minor and major 2-5-1s. Do you see that as one shape or 3 shapes? Part A question. Part B question is, do you have, like a stockpile of lines that you might use over 2-5-1s? Like, how do you navigate that very standard change in jazz?
The 2-5-1 is in every music. Okay, so whether you play rock, or you play funk, or you play jazz, or you play R&B, you are going to be dealing with a 2-5-1. So the more you understand about that progression, the more you're able to handle it. And it's pretty simple. if we were just dealing with this area that we were talking about, there's a 2, there's a 5, there's a 1. It's all over the fingerboard. So if you're thinking about, now this involves listening to a lot of music and listening to your favorite players and taking and borrowing some of the things that they use. Like for, I don't have stock licks or anything like that. I have solos that I have transcribed from John Coltrane to Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery, Freddie Hubbard, all of those guys. But as you do that, you start learning that it's not a particular instrument, it's the language. And so the language, the musical language of jazz, the core of it is bebop, which Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie were doing that. They created, before everybody was playing like, here's a perfect example. Back in the swing era, when you heard that chord, automatically the guitar players, pentatonic is just what they played. That was part of the swing era sound. So even when you were playing blues, the blues sounded like this. But when Charlie Parker and them came up, they said, that don't sound like the blues to me. So they moved everything up a minor third to where if you playing this, it became that, and this moved up to this. That's what happened when they changed the music and they actually start using more language that use more of the palettes and colors of the chords. You know, and those guys were, they was doing like. So that's the whole color of F minor. So when you kind of like understand that there's a basic core bebop language, so when you're looking for information for those 2-5-1s and stuff like that, that's really where it's coming from. Guys are going to have different ways of doing it, but your results is kind of, you're going to end up in the same spot. So in other words, if we're going to the grocery store and the grocery store is 6 blocks away, you're going to go like 5 different ways out of boredom, but you're still going to end up at the grocery store.
Gotcha.
You know? So if you got 2-5, okay, now you got. You're using those different colors. But if, let me see if I could find something to get him started. I would just take a simple blues and take one of my favorite players, slow it down, and go through it and find the ones that jump out at you. If it's a 2-5-1, because there's a lot of them. If the song is like 16 choruses, there's going to be a lot of 2-5-1s. But go through the ones that actually speak to you, jump out at you, and take those and find out where they are on your guitar. Because if you learn 4 or 5 of them, they're going to catapult into 7 or 8 of them.
Man, that's such a great way of explaining it. You know, thinking about it like a language, you know, listening to what other players have done with the language, right? It's not about learning licks. A lot of players are kind of adverse to learning, quote, licks, you know, but you kind of have to start. It's like learning any language, words, you learn phrases, and then you kind of make it your own is, I think, what you're saying, right?
Well, yeah. Can you think about, you know, here's the interesting thing that nobody ever asked this question. If you play pop, you play R&B, and you play funk, nobody ever asks you, what scale are you using?
Mm-hmm.
And you hear, nobody's asking you what scale you play.
Mm-hmm.
So why is
What a
it now?
great
Why is
point,
it
man.
different for jazz?
Yeah.
Because now you play jazz, and now you got to know what
Yeah.
scale and things are. No, all of that stuff is built on your ear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you get used to hearing like, when you hear that, and you're listening to Chicago or any of those guys, they're not thinking about what scale it is. They're thinking about like, hey man, this is funky. What can I put over that? And you hear the guitar player going. He's not thinking about a scale. It's music that you have to interact with and feel. And when if it feels good to you, it's saying something. That particular thing is speaking out to you, you know, and your personality is saying like, hey man, let's learn this. We can make this our own.
I love that, Henry, and I really have to repeat this again because, you know, the way you explain things kind of liberate we students of the guitar. You know, we do, you know, particularly with jazz, because you're right about pop and blues, and it's, you know, no one's worried about the scales or how do I play over a turnaround or something like that. But with jazz, it comes up all the time. And the most common question we get when, you know, interviewing or there's a chat with any kind of jazz player that we work with is, you know, what scale should I use over this particular change? And I think for those of you, and I know there's a few of you out there that have worked with Henry's courses, his way of kind of getting you in the game and getting you started and up and running, you know, it's crazy. It's so simple and so clear. And there's plenty of time to learn all your scales, learn all the harmony, learn all the, you want to, you know, to each their own. But if you want to start playing jazz, this guy's a good guru for you, I'll tell you that. Play something, man. Play a blues. So, you know, the second course, I don't know if we talked a lot about that, and we're starting to run out of time, and man, we could go on forever here. And, you know, I think folks out there are really digging it. You're getting some, you know, just great compliments. Many of the things that those of us that play blues are always looking for are ways to kind of, let's call it jazz up our blues, right? And, you know, we go back, we listen to soul jazz, you know, from the late 60s and 70s, the organ trio stuff. And the second course is called Jazz Inspirations, and it features a series of solos over those kind of grooves, organ grooves, right? They're all blues, basically. And if you want to jazz up your blues, without a doubt, there's enough material to feed you for life in this course. I'll guarantee you that. Pick one of those tunes and play some blues. Play some organ trio blues.
Okay, what you got up there, Tommy?
One that looks really good. I think it's called Jamming in the Pocket. I don't know. Is that a blues?
Henry named all the tunes after several of us, and I don't know if you got that. That's Tommy Jammin'. That's his last name. So of course he's going to pick Jammin' with the Blues.
That's one.
Yeah, you can put up that one, Tommy. That one's it's not a blues, but it's like it's one of those funk kind of grooves that you can play a lot of stuff on. So if you're into your pentatonic stuff, this is like in D minor. jazz it up, you use double stops. That's basically what you're doing. Now, here's another little trick. You can go up a fifth. That's just a pentatonic scale. But it outlines a different type of thing, you know? Hold it up for a minute, Tommy.
So you're saying up a fifth?
Here's an automatic thing. Let's say if we're playing an A minor, right? And you're playing your pentatonic scale. Everybody got that, right? Okay, now, if you want to create a different color of that A minor, just go up a fifth. Here's your A, go up a fifth here, play pentatonic.
Play E.
Play E
minor
pentatonic.
pentatonic.
Now you're going to get instead of that sound, you're going to get this sound. Your pentatonic is going to create the sound of this. Now, one more, just go up a whole step. Play your pentatonic up a whole step. So now you got this. And so what that does, it creates the illusion that you're playing like this. And you get colors like this. But everything is still A minor.
So you can play off of the root, A minor pentatonic. You can play up a fifth, E minor pentatonic, or up a whole step, B minor pentatonic.
Yes.
And can you play that over the whole form? You know, the whole 1, 4, 5. Like yes.
Yeah.
And can you do that if we were playing in A major or A dominant?
If you do it in A major,
Yeah.
that means you're playing an A major pentatonic.
Mm-hmm.
But that just means that you hit the A, go down a minor third, and that's your minor pentatonic. So in other words, there's your A major right there. But the pentatonic that goes over that, the fingering that everybody knows, is actually F sharp.
Got it. So same rules apply.
Yes.
Over the major, you'd play the major pentatonic
Exactly.
up a whole tone.
Mm-hmm.
To F sharp would be G sharp.
Exactly.
Or up a fifth.
Every major pentatonic is a minor pentatonic. They're one and the same. It's just different start.
So the rule applies. It's the same movement, up a whole tone or up a fifth.
Exactly.
Well, I would say that's worth the price of admission for this broadcast. I hope you all agree with that one. I'm taking that one home. I'm going to start fooling with that. We're out of time. Would you pick another blues from Jazz Inspirations? And you called it that because, you're really have kind of this unique history of, you started young, and at a very young age, you're kind of old enough to have been young enough and good enough back in the day to play with all these giants of jazz, and yet young enough to not only, pay it forward, but develop your own kind of signature sound and, progress. So I think that's a really special quality that you bring to the table, and your ability to explain things in the way that you explain them without, confusing us and getting us, without us having to do some heavy math,
I just want guitar players to remember why they started playing the guitar and enjoy it again. I don't want you to have to scratch your head because you want to play this particular song. You just learn the song, man, and just do what you did before. You didn't just start. Everybody started someplace, But how did you get to be as good as you are? Why would you stop doing what got you to where you are? But when you run into the jazz type of thing that creates conflicts, it frustrates people because it takes them out of being who they are. It takes them off their natural process of learning. And if you've been learning this way and been working, why in God's name would you change that? You just make the system whatever it is you want to learn, you make that work. You don't change what's already got you to the table.
Good point, man. Thank you so much for doing this with us today.
No, I appreciate it.
Call out any of the blues you want and play us out, man.
Give me that first one, man.
The Baron?
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in to this broadcast. Check out Henry's stuff on TrueFire. Buy his albums. Go see him in concert. Will absolutely blow your mind, guaranteed. We'll definitely, absolutely have Henry coming back. And I'm thinking we should talk about comping and rhythm maybe next time. Let us know what you think. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and thanks so much for your support. It means, everything to us. And we'll keep working hard to keep earning that support. We'll see you on the next one.